We back at I think section 2:7. Effect of dissolution. Such dissolution shall not take away or impair any remedy against such corporation, its stockholders or officers, for any liability or penalty which shall have been previously incurred. 12 USC 501A. And anytime I say that, it just means that it's codified there. That's where you can see it in the code. 8. Stock offered to public. Should the subscription by banks to the stock of said Federal Reserve banks or anyone or more of them be, in the judgment of the organization committee, insufficient to provide the amount of capital required therefore, then and in that event, the said organization committee may, under conditions and regulations be prescribed by it, offer to public subscription at par such an amount of stock in said Federal Reserve banks, or any one or more of them, as said committee shall determine, subject to the same condition as to payment and stock liability as provided for member banks omitted from United States Code. 9. Limitation on amount to one subscriber. No individual, co-partnership, or corporation other than a member bank of its district shall be permitted to subscribe for or to hold at any time more than $25,000 per value of stock in any Federal Reserve bank. Such stock shall be known as public stock and shall be transferred on the books of the Federal Reserve Bank by the chairman of the board of directors of such bank. 12. United States Code 283. Excuse me. 10. Stock allotted to United States. Should the total subscription by banks and the public to the stock of said Federal Reserve banks, or any one or more of them, be, in a judgment of the organization committee, insufficient to provide the amount of capital required therefore, then and in that event, the said organization committee shall allot to the United States such an amount of said stock as said committee shall determine. Said United States stock shall be paid for at par out of any money in the treasury not otherwise appropriated, and shall be held by the Secretary of Treasury and disposed of for the benefit of the United States in such manner, at such times, and at such price, not less than par, as the Secretary of Treasury shall determine. This also been omitted from the United States Code. Section, we not there yet, I don't think. All right. Stock 11. Voting rights. Stock not held by member banks shall not be entitled to voting power. Stock not held by member banks shall not be entitled to voting power. 12 United States Code 285. 12. Transfer of stock. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System is hereby empowered to adopt and promulgate rules and regulations governing the transfers of said stock. 12 United States Code 286. 13. Minimum stock. Statutes of reserve cities. No Federal Reserve Bank shall commence business with a subscribed capital less than $4 million. The organization of reserve districts and the Federal Reserve cities shall not be construed as changing the present status of reserve cities, except insofar as this act changes the amount of reserves that may be carried with approved reserve agents located therein. The organization committee shall have power to appoint such assistants and incur such expenses in carrying out the provisions of this act as it shall deem necessary, and such expenses shall be payable by the Treasurer of the United States upon voucher approved by the Secretary of Treasury, and the sum of $100,000 or so much thereof as may be necessary is hereby appropriated out of any monies in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated for the payment of such expenses, partially incorporated in 12 United States Code 224 and 281. General policy, congressional review. We're at Section 2A. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System and the Federal Open Market Committee shall maintain long-run growth of the monetary and credit aggregates commensurate with the economy's long-run potential to increase production so as to promote effectively the goals of maximum employment, stable price, and moderate long-term interest rate. 12 U.S.C. 225A. Section 2B. Appearance before and reports to the Congress. 8. Appearances before the Congress. 1. In general, the chairman of the board shall appear before the Congress at semi-annual hearings as specified in paragraph 2. Regards. A. The effects, activities, objectives, and plans of the board and the Federal Open Market Committee with respect to the conduct of monetary policy, and B. Economic developments and prospects for the future described in the report required in subparagraph B. 2. Schedule. The chairman of the board shall appear services of the House of Representatives on or about February 20th of even numbered calendar years and on or about July 20th of odd numbers calendar year. B. Before the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs of the Senate on or about July 20th of even odd numbers calendar year, and C. Before either committee refers to in subparagraph A or B, upon request, following the scheduled appearance of the chairman for an other committee under subparagraph A or B. B. Congressional report. The board shall, concurrent with each semi-annual hearing required by this section, submit a written report to the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs of the Senate and the Committee on Banking and Financial Services of the House of Representatives, containing a discussion of the conduct of monetary policy and economic developments and prospects for the future, taking into account past and prospective developments in employment, unemployment, production, investment, real income, productivity, exchange rates, international trade and payment, and pricing. C. Public access to information. The board shall place on its home internet website a link entitled Audit, which shall link to a website that shall serve as a repository of information made available to the public for a reasonable period of time, not less than 6 months following the date of release of the relevant information, including 1. The reports prepared by the Comptroller General under Section 714 of Title 31 United States Code. 2. The annual financial statements prepared by an independent auditor for the board in accordance with Section 11B. 3. The reports to the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs of the Senate required under Section 13(3) relating to emergency lending authority, and 4. Such other information as the board reasonably believes is necessary or helped to the public in understanding the accounting, financing, reporting, and internal controls of the board and the Federal Reserve Bank, codified at 12 United States Code 225B. 1. Establishment of branches of Federal Reserve. Section 3. Branch offices. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System may permit or require any Federal Reserve Bank to establish branch banks within the Federal Reserve District in which it is located, or within the district of any Federal Reserve Bank which may have been suspended. Such branches subject to such rules and regulations as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System may prescribe shall be operating under the provisions of the Board of Directors to consist of not more than 7 nor less than 3 directors, of whom a majority of 1 shall be appointed by the Federal Reserve Bank of the district, and the remaining districts by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, Directors of branch banks shall hold office during the pleasure of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, codified at 12 United States Code 521. 2. Discontinuance of branches. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System may at any time require any Federal Reserve Bank to discontinue any branch of such Federal Reserve Bank established under this section. The Federal Reserve Bank shall thereupon proceed to wind up the business of such branch bank, subject to such rules and regulations as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System may prescribe. 12 U.S.C. 521. 3. Erection of branch buildings. Erection of branch buildings. Going up. They're building them, maybe. Erection. No Federal Reserve Bank shall have authority hereafter to enter into any contract or contracts for the erection of any branch bank building of any kind or charter or character, or to authorize the erection of any such building except with the approval of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. 12 U.S.C. 521. I'm going to read that one over. There's 3. Erection of branch buildings. No Federal Reserve Bank shall have authority hereafter to enter into any contract or contract for the erection of any branch bank building of any kind or character, or to authorize the erection of any such building except with the approval of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Okay. Whenever we come back, we're going to come back at section 4. And we're going to start doing sections just like them.